Earth had rings like Saturn? If Earth had rings like Saturn, our sunsets would be an incredible spectacle. It isn't far-fetched, as the Earth did have rings a very long time ago, the result of a cataclysmic planetary crash that preceded the formation of the Moon. Jupiter, Uranus, Saturn, Earth? Sadly, the Earth didn't make it onto the list of the solar system's ringed planets. If it did, would it still be able to host life? Los Angeles at night. When the Earth was young, it most likely had a ring of rock debris around it. 4.5 billion years ago, another planet, Theia, hit the Earth. The giant impact sent a ring of matter hurtling into the Earth's orbit. But it didn't stay like that for long. The rocky debris soon formed another celestial body, the one we now call the Moon. Los Angeles by Day image by Kevin Gill on Flickr. Having planetary rings visible in the sky would look way more spectacular than just one gray rock, right? Maybe. But if our planet got beautiful rings like these tomorrow, much of life on Earth might not survive the renovation process. New York by Day. The gravitational pull that our planet exerts on the Moon isn't equal everywhere. It's much stronger on the side of the Moon that is closer to us. Rio de Janeiro at dusk. The distance of the Roche limit depends on the size, mass and density of the two objects. For instance, the Sun rips up comets that come within 1.3 million kilometers, 0.8 million miles, of it. The Earth will tear apart an average-sized comet from approximately 18,000 kilometers, 11,185 miles, away. For the Moon, the Roche limit would be 9,500 kilometers, 5,900 miles. Quito by Day. The rings we might get from something the size of the Moon would be about 5,000 kilometers, 3,100 miles, wide and around 9.5 meters, 31 feet, thick. Singapore by night. But unlike Saturn's icy rings, ours would be made of nothing but rock. The Earth is just too close to the Sun to keep the debris iced. Sydney at dusk. Looking out at the sky, you'd be able to see these rings from Earth at all times. Because of the brightness of the rings, the Moon wouldn't seem as bright anymore. That is if we still had the Moon. If the Moon crumbled up and became our rings, well, there'd be nothing else up there to look at. And there would be some other consequences. Istanbul by night. The rings suddenly hugging Earth would disrupt internal navigation systems of some animals. If not enough direct sunlight was making it through the rings, they would also affect photosynthesis and our oxygen supply. Guatemala. In the shadow of the rings, with no contact from the sun's rays, the temperature would get so cold that it would make the shadowed areas of the Earth almost uninhabitable. Iceland. Communications satellites, generally placed around the Earth's equator, would find themselves right in the middle of a rock storm. We'd need to find another way to keep the internet alive, if we want to keep posting selfies on a ringed Earth. New Zealand. We'd be better off in a scenario where the Earth has always been like this. Provided we didn't lose sunlight and oxygen, we'd evolve just fine. But we'd have to develop other means of communication, since we wouldn't be able to send satellites into an orbit full of rocks. Shadows over Australia. Space would never become our final frontier. The rocky rings around the planet would be a sort of orbital barbed wire fence keeping us all grounded. And, just like the rings of Saturn, Earth's rings wouldn't last forever. One day they'd start to feel their age and drop from the sky. Make sure to wear a helmet and look up at the falling sky. If the multiverse is real, there might be a ringed Earth somewhere out there, with people on it wondering what it'd be like to live on a planet with no rings.